What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Same Philly Sports History for May 1st, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. It is game day. And finally, it seems like the Sixers last played 2 years ago. But they will take the court tonight against the Celtics. As of right now, Joe is still listed as doubtful. You never know, though. I talked about this, and quick programming note: there is a new episode of Back to the Future where we take a deeper dive into this series, look at what the Sixers need to do, the history of the Sixers Celtics rivalry, and see what happens. Hopefully, you're listening to this now. I'm trying to squeeze this in before Comcast shuts my cable off and get everything uploaded. So, fingers crossed that you are listening to this today on May 1st. But I talked about this, and I don't want to get too much into what that podcast was about here, but there have been times in the past where Joe didn't look like he was going to play in the playoffs due to an injury, and then the last minute he comes out like Superman and all of a sudden is able to play. So even though he's listed as doubtful, I would not put it past him to actually still play tonight. Again, check out the latest Back to the Future wherever you get your podcast. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. For the month of May, and I'll get more into this in a little bit. Actually, might as well get into it now. We are going to be doing a Sixers playoff spotlight. So basically, take a look at one of the seasons they made the playoffs, and a lot of times what I did throughout the month, it's going to tie in with what this day in Philly sports history again. So there's going to be a lot of Sixers this month, so be prepared. But today's Sixers playoff spotlight, we're going to back to the 1998-99 season, and that was a lockout season. The owners locked out the players until I think it was sometime in January. They locked everybody out. Once they came back, they played a 50-game season that started in February. The Sixers finished 28-22. It was the first time they were over 500 since the 1990-91 season. It was also the last time they made the playoffs, so it was a long decade in the 90s for the Sixers, and I could go on and on and on about the horrible draft picks that came in and just the even worse players, and at least with the whole tanking era, you sort of knew that there was an end goal. The problem with the 90s Sixers, I should say, is that there was no direction, and they thought the guys they were bringing in were going to be good. They just missed on pretty much every draft pick until AI. They missed on, whether it was Clarence Weatherspoon, Sharon Wright, Sean Bradley. It just was not one of them worked out, which is I think it's more difficult to have that happen than to actually hit on your draft picks, to be completely honest. To miss so badly and just be such a poorly run organization for so long. And then Pat Croce came in and sort of changed the ship, brought in Billy King, brought in Larry Brown. We'll get more into those guys as we go through the month. But back to the 98-99 Sixers. 28-22, over 500. They got the 6th seed in the playoffs, and I just remember being ecstatic because you could tell that things were going to change. Like AI was coming into his own. He led the league in scoring that year. Larry Brown was in his second season and really had them playing well. A lot of the pieces from that 2000-2001 playoff run team or finals run team were on this team. So you had Aaron McKee, George Lynch, those guys. Eric Snow, Theo Ratliff, even though Ratliff was actually the piece that got them over the hump that year. So you could tell things were going to go well. You didn't really expect much in the playoffs. However, in the first round, they upset the 3rd seeded Miami Heat 3-1. And at that point, we were just like, okay, we're on borrowed time. And then obviously the next round, they got swept by the Pacers, who were very, very good at this time. But the takeaway was, after all the suffering of the 90s, the Sixers were back. They had an identity. They were a team on the rise. And sure, it was a shortened season. If they had played the extra 30 games, maybe they don't make the playoffs. But by the same token, maybe if they had played the other 30 games, they would have been higher than a 6 seed anyway. So just so many different ways you could go with that. But the 1998-99 Sixers, first time back in the playoffs since 1990-91. Basically sort of the catapult to that finals run team with AI. just fun time for suffering Sixers fan like me. That was one of my favorite seasons because they were actually bearable to watch. Like it wasn't like ugh. Like you could watch the games and tune in nightly and actually see a decent game. So that was our Sixers playoff spotlight. Throughout the month of May, we'll continue to do them of one of their playoff seasons in their history. Phillies update: lost 4-3 last night. JT and Cody Clemens both hit homers. It would have been nice to win. Bailey Falter didn't look too bad. It's just one of those things. I mean, you took 2 or 3 from the Astros. You'll take it. Moving on to LA today. However, the big story is there's a very huge doctor appointment that's happening today. Bryce Harper's meeting with his surgeon to see if he can get approved for a headfirst sliding. If he gets cleared and he can headfirst slide, he'll be in the lineup tonight, apparently, according to Rob Thompson. And it's amazing that he's only going to miss 30 games after having Tommy John surgery, or could potentially only miss 30 games. So maybe this is a sign that the universe is either setting us up like Lucy taking the football from us or what, but maybe Bryce Harper gets cleared to play tonight and at the last minute Joe gets played, and just keep sending those magic healing vibes and healing crystals, whatever you need, to both of them. But it's truly, truly amazing that you're going to add Bryce Harper to this team very, very soon. And I mean, they're just starting to turn the corner now, so the excitement now is high. But just send your positive vibes that he gets cleared. Send your whatever to Joe's knee. Like, he can have mine if he wants, if that's going to help. But they are in action tonight against the Dodgers late night on the West Coast. But this is this day in Philly sports history. So let's go back to May 1st, 1998. The Sabres beat the Flyers 3-2 in overtime, which eliminated the Flyers in their first round NHL playoff series. They lost four games to 1 year after being in the Stanley Cup final and should have been the champions that year. They lost 4-1 to the Sabres. They just could not solve Dominik Hasek in this series. Mike Sillinger and Dave Babbage scored the 2 goals for the Flyers. They were the 3rd seed. They just could not get it done. Just a very, very symbolic, I feel, of that whole Lindros era. Just not being able to close the deal. And maybe not just Lindros. Maybe that's not fair to put that on him. Just the Flyers in general, post-Stanley Cup. The whole, not Ed Snyder, Ed Snyder, but Bobby Clark era as the GM. Just not meeting expectations, falling short all the time, and here we are still cleaning up the mess from the good old boy network. So on this day, back in 1998, the Sabres beat the Flyers 3-2 in overtime, sending them home for the summer. Fingers crossed that we get some good news from Bryce and Joe tonight. But Sixers Celtics tonight, I think as long as everybody steps up, they just got to take 1 or 2. We got to break this series down into pieces. And I did not talk about this on the podcast, but I feel we're going to take it in just chunks. Right now, we're worried about these next 2 games. We need to win one of them. All right? One of the next 2 games is all we need right now. Joe or no Joe, just one game. And we'll see what happens. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History. Be sure to go check out Back to the Future and tell a friend, and follow me on social media and all that other good stuff. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.